Alright, hello and thanks for joining me today. I'm working on a 2006 GMC Sierra 1500 pickup truck, and today I'm going to change out the front spindles. This here is the stock original spindle. It's been cleaned up and repainted, and I'm going to reinstall it and switch it out with from these 2-inch lift spindles. As you can see here, this neck here is a bit longer compared to this part here. The truck had these put on to raise it up a little bit in the front, and now we're going to change them back to the stock one. We want to go back to the stock height here. Pretty simple process, but there's quite a few things that you have to remove. Can be a little bit difficult, but I'm going to walk you through it and show you how I did it, and it turned out to be pretty smooth. First off, I removed the caliper. As you can see, I got it tied up here out of the way. It bolted on right here. There's 2 bolts in the back. They're 18 millimeter. I removed the caliper. Then I went ahead and took the rotor off just to make it easier to get this hub off. Next I have to remove the hub. And that's done through the back here. Let's see here. You can see, let me get something to point with. I got a little wrench here to point with here. See right here. Got one here, another one up here, and another one down on the other side. You got 3 bolts. Those are 15 millimeter, and once you remove those, you get this whole assembly out, and that's one part. Then after that, you have to disconnect up here from the upper A-arm. That's 18 millimeter. I've already broken everything loose, and it's just about ready to go. Then we have another one here for the steering linkage. That's 18 millimeter. And then we have one down here for the bottom. That's a 24 millimeter nut. Once you get all those off, be careful once you remove this one. If it can fall, and this thing's pretty heavy. You don't want it to fall on yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and then we'll swap out and put the original one back on. First, I'm going to get started here by removing the bolts in the back for the stud. And get this adjusted here for you. A little bit more so you can see the top part there. There we go. Okay, so I've already broken these loose. It's or not the stud, I'm sorry, the hub. So we got these 3 bolts back here. I've already loosened them up. Got 1 at the top and 2 at the bottom, kind of in a triangle formation. And then this should come loose. There we go. It's raining down dirt on me. And we got this cable attached here, but instead of disconnecting it and going through all that hassle, I'm just going to go ahead and tie this up out of the way. One less thing I got to take apart here. Go ahead and wrap this around. Should have done that first. Wrap this wire around one of the studs here. Oh, it's raining down grime on me. There we go. And then put this with the flex plate. Just get it up here out of my way. And I'll hang it from the A-arm here. Let's see, I'll work my cable through here. Yeah, a little bit more. There we go. There, let that dangle. There we go. Should be good. Okay. Now next we have the steering arm here. Got that nut off. And then we have this one up here. Oh, looks like it's still a little tight. Let's see. Go ahead and work it off the rest of the way. Oh, this is pretty straightforward. You just got to remember, you might take some knocking to get all this stuff loose, because it is kind of a wedged in there a bit. Let's see, we got a little hammer here. There we go. That one came off pretty easy. Get that out of the way. Now we got this nut down here. That one's a bit bigger. Like I said, it's a 24 millimeter. Okay, get that loose. Okay. Now you just need to knock it down. This whole thing needs to come down this way because it slid up here and slid down there. So it's on there pretty good. It's going to take some pounding. Okay, I went ahead and banged on this portion of the spindle to knock it loose down here. I got the nut on here so it doesn't fall down, and when that happened, when it got loose, the top was still holding tight right in here, and being that the A-arm moved up and down, it wasn't coming loose. So I went ahead and got a hammer and hit this nut and broke it free. So now we're loose, you can see here, and we're ready to drop this spindle off. Now this process is the same if you're doing lowering spindles, lifting spindles, whatever it is. Same thing, just like I said, this is a 2-inch lift spindle, so this arm is longer than the stock one. But like I said, on this one we're going back to stock height. So we're taking these lift spindles off and putting the stock ones back on. But if you were to lower it with lowering spindles and whatnot, same process. So I'll go ahead and get this. Oh, okay, so we ran into a little issue down there. The bottom is spinning. So we have at the very end of it, it takes like an Allen key. And we'll get that, hold that, oops. Let me get that set here. I don't know exactly what size it is, but I didn't have an Allen key that was big enough, so I went ahead and I'm using this bit that fits right in there perfectly. Go ahead and get that in there, because now we're just turning the nut and it's spinning the whole joint there. I'll go ahead and get that inserted. There we go. Like I said, this is a 24. There we go. I should be able to. There we go. Oh, better support that, because that sucker's going to drop right on me. Okay, so there we go. That's out. And boom. There's the 2-inch lift spindle. Now we're going to go ahead and reinstall the original. So as you can see, let me compare these here. This one here's got a much shorter neck as compared to the lift one, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of the excess grease that we had on the original spindle here, or the lift one. Lube up this shaft a little bit, make it easier to slide in. And it looks like we got some grease on top we can redirect here. Put it in there. And a little bit around this one. See these nuts here, you can tell they're tapered, so that's why they kind of wedge in. That's why they get stuck, and you kind of got to beat them out once they're tightened down. They're in there pretty good. Go ahead and clean the grease off my hands here. Move that spindle. Okay, so make sure we get this right. Yeah, that looks about right. Got the holes for the caliper here. This side here, the 2 holes for the caliper. This one's for the steering arm. We kind of gotta do this at the same time. Slide the bottom and the top in. Okay, there we go. We get that nut on the bottom to support it so it doesn't fall. Okay, it's turning on its own already. Go ahead and get the nut for the top. Now the steering arm. Get that in place. I got the nut for that. And all of these take, this one here doesn't take an Allen key. It has it's hexed on the end, and then this one takes an Allen key, but a little bit smaller size, because it's going to start rotating on us. Go ahead and get that fit in there and start tightening this up. I said, this process is pretty straightforward. Just to get stuck, especially if you got a vehicle that you off-roaded, it's rusty, it's dirty, might take a lot of beating to get that spindle loose. But in this case, it wasn't too bad since these have been changed once before and they weren't mated in there, so we didn't have too many troubles. Okay, it's starting to get tight. We're getting up there. Anything that's moving, or oh, my vice grip wasn't holding anymore. Go ahead and tighten that. There we go. Alright, we're almost there. Alright, I'm not going to tighten it all the way just yet until I get the other ones in. Okay, so as I say, it was 18mm here. Let's see if we can do this one. How much spinning we get? Oh, we're spinning already, so we're going to have to go to the wrench. Came apart without having to do this, but not going together the same way. Because now we're trying to wedge that thing back in there. There we go. It's coming down. Oops. Turn this back on me here. Yeah, make sure I got that down all the way. I think it's still a little bit more to go. There we go. That should take care of it. Don't want to beat on that too much and do any damage to it, but we do want to get this tight. There we go. Alright, we're good there. Okay, now we just got the one up top here. Turn that so you can see a little better. And that one, I have an Allen that fits that. Goes right inside there. And then I can go ahead and use our wrench. I think this one might be loose enough I can turn by hand. No. And being that these are your main, one of your main suspension parts here, you want to make sure you get these on there tight. You pretty much can't over tighten them too much because there's just nowhere for them to go once they're all the way installed, so you'll know when to stop. Other than that, you'll strip the threads if you try to go any further. I don't like using impact on these because I can't feel it. I like to do it by hand here. Let's see, I'm almost there. Okay, now it's getting tight. Okay, one more little turn for good measure. There we go. So we got that. We got this one tight, and like I said, we held off on the bottom one. So let's go ahead and tighten that one up all the way. Got it most of the way tight. Let's go get our tool. I'm getting my little key set up again. There we go. Get that in there. And this one's the big boy, 24mm. Almost there. There we go. That wanted to turn on us. Well, there you have it. We got the spindle installed. I guess I could turn it like that. You can see a little better. Now we'll go ahead and get the hub back in. Got those 3 bolts. Got those here. Got it suspended here so I didn't have to disconnect the sensor wire. one extra thing to not have to worry about reassembling. Now if I can just get this wire out. Okay. And we have our shroud, which, let's see, how did this go on? Front like that, huh? There we go. It lines up with the holes, so there's pretty much only one way you can get it on, and it was front facing. So let's see, we got it like, make sure we get it on there correctly. There we go. It goes opposite of the caliper. This open side is where the caliper is going to go, so that's how you know you got it. Make sure you don't get this cable pinched in there. Oh, I don't have the holes lined up. Okay. Now the tricky part is getting these bolts in through the shield. Much easier if you have the rotor off like I did here, and then getting it into the threads of the hub. There we go, I got that one started. Okay, I get the top one first so it'll support everything for me, and I can go ahead and get the other ones in. And take a little positioning here. Just because you got that top one screwed in doesn't mean that the bottom bolts are going to line up, but that one sure did. There we go, now they turn in real easy. Let's see, I got this one. Oh, it's easier to get it from this side. Now that we got the other two, the shield should not be a factor. No, they're going in nice and smooth. Well, there you have it. That's how you change the front spindles on a 2006 GMC. I'm assuming it's exactly the same for a Chevy. I'm not sure the year range. I believe you're talking about 2005 to somewhere in the early teens. It should be the same setup. But go ahead and tighten these down. And then after that, I'll get the rotor put back on. Well, I guess I can go ahead and do that. We're not too far from that process. The rotor slides right over the studs, and there's one screw. That's a Torx bit to tighten it, and that's pretty much it. Okay, these guys here in the back were 15 millimeters. Make sure you want to tighten them, and like I said, you don't want to strip them out, then you'll have a nightmare. Get them tight here. Okay. Okay. Now we'll get the rotor. That's set off to the side here. Like I said, there's one bolt that holds on. You want to line it up with this hole down here. Let's see, can you see that there? There you go. And on the rotor itself, there's two holes, and then this one that's recessed. That's the one we want to line up with the hole. That's the one that's going to hold it together. So there we go. And let's see, it's a Torx 30, what we used to get that off. And it wasn't much more than finger tight to begin with, but I'm going to go ahead and tighten it just a little bit more. Make sure it doesn't back out on us. Let's see, since I got this here, I'll go ahead and use this to do it. When I disassembled it, I broke it free with my finger, so it wasn't in there too much. There you go, that's good enough. So that's it, and all we got left is to put the caliper back on in the wheel, and we've changed out the spindle. Alright, I hope that was informative, and thank you very much for watching. Please browse my channel, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much.